Russian President Vladimir Putin is ready to halt the war in Ukraine with a negotiated ceasefire that recognizes the current battlefield lines. For Russian sources told Reuters, saying he is prepared to fight on if Kyiv and the West do not respond. Three of the sources, familiar with discussions in Putin's entourage, said the veteran Russian leader had expressed frustration to a small group of advisors about what he views as Western-backed attempts to stymie negotiations and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's decision to rule out talks. Putin can fight for as long as it takes, but Putin is also ready for a ceasefire to freeze the war, said another of the four, a senior Russian source who has worked with Putin and has knowledge of top-level conversations in the Kremlin. He, like the others cited in this story, spoke on condition of anonymity given the matter's sensitivity. For this account, Reuters spoke to a total of 5 people who work with or have worked with Putin at a senior level in the political and business worlds. The fifth source did not comment on freezing the war at the current front lines. Asked about the Reuters report at a news conference in Belarus on Friday, Putin said peace talks should restart. "Let them resume," he said, adding that negotiations should be based on the realities on the ground and on a plan agreed during a previous attempt to reach a deal in the first weeks of the war. Not on the basis of what one side wants, he said. Ukrainian Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba said on X that the Russian leader was trying to derail a Ukrainian-initiated peace summit in Switzerland next month by using his entourage to send out phony signals about his alleged readiness to halt the war. Putin currently has no desire to end his aggression against Ukraine. Only the principled and united voice of the global majority can force him to choose peace over war, said Kuleba. Mikhailo Podolyak, a Ukrainian presidential advisor, said Putin wanted Western democracies to accept defeat. The appointment last week of economist Andrei Belousov as Russia's defense minister was seen by some Western military and political analysts as placing the Russian economy on a permanent war footing in order to win a protracted conflict. It followed sustained battlefield pressure and territorial advances by Russia in recent weeks. However, the sources said that Putin, re-elected in March for a new 6-year term, would rather use Russia's current momentum to put the war behind him. They did not directly comment on the new defense minister. Putin's spokesman Dmitry Peskov, in response to a request for comment, said the country did not want eternal war, based on their knowledge of conversations in the upper ranks of the Kremlin. 2 of the sources said Putin was of the view that gains in the war so far were enough to sell a victory to the Russian people. Europe's biggest ground conflict since World War II has cost tens of thousands of lives on both sides and led to sweeping Western sanctions on Russia's economy. 3 sources said Putin understood any dramatic new advances would require another nationwide mobilization, which he didn't want, with one source who knows the Russian president saying his popularity dipped after the first mobilization in September 2022. The national call-up spooked part of the population in Russia, triggering hundreds of thousands of draft-age men to leave the country. Polls showed Putin's popularity falling by several points. Peskov said Russia had no need for mobilization and was instead recruiting volunteer contractors to the armed forces. The prospect of a ceasefire, or even peace talks, currently seems remote. Zelensky has repeatedly said peace on Putin's terms is a non-starter. He has vowed to retake lost territory, including Crimea, which Russia annexed in 2014. He signed a decree in 2022 that formally declared any talks with Putin impossible. One of the sources predicted no agreement could happen while Zelensky was in power, unless Russia bypassed him and struck a deal with Washington. However, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken, speaking in Kyiv last week, told reporters he did not believe Putin was interested in serious negotiations.